Hi there, my name is Nicola Pierce, and I am going to read from my new book, Chasing Ghosts An Arctic Adventure. It's the true story of an Arctic expedition in 1845 that ends in disaster, and it's also a true story about a real ghost story that happened in Derry around the same time when 4-year-old Wheezy dies of a fever. After her funeral, her sister Anne and her brother William start to see her spirit around the house, and also the baby sister Sarah, who's only about 2 years of age. So I'm just going to read where they see her spirit for the very first time. It was Sarah who saw Wheezy first, although she showed no surprise since she hardly understood what was real anyway. Laura, our maid, was polishing the staircase the morning after Papa left when she was interrupted by Sarah clapping her hands and exclaiming, "Wheezy! Wheezy!" It was one of the few words she could correctly pronounce. The others were me and no. Used to being trailed by Sarah as she tended to her morning duties, Laura took her time to discover that Sarah was beaming at the wall as if it had made a joke. Feeling obliged to be clear, Laura waved her cloth at the ceiling as she explained, "No, my pet, Wheezy has gone to heaven." When she saw that she was wasting her time because Sarah was too absorbed in her mysterious game, Laura gave up and returned to her polishing. A couple of days later, on hearing a thud from the landing and William's howl, Aunt Harriet and I dashed up the stairs to find him sprawled on the floor, a perfect dot of blood winking at us from his grazed forehead. Aunt Harriet flung herself upon him. "Oh my goodness, what happened to you? Did you fall?" Instead of answering our aunt's questions, William appeared to be looking for something. Aunt Harriet cupped his face in her hands and spoke slowly. "William, are you all right? Do you know where you are? Do you know who I am?" It took a moment before he finally focused on her, and then he certainly amazed me with his answer. "I saw Wheezy. She was standing just there by the wall. I ran to hug her, but—" The bell went for dinner. Aunt Harriet pulled her handkerchief from her sleeve, wiped the blood away, and told us to go and wash our hands. We watched her straighten her skirt and head downstairs. Waiting until Aunt Harriet had reached the lowest step, William asked me, "Do you believe me? I really saw her, honest." Unwilling to give in straight away, I allowed a tight nod of my head, which he missed. Instead, he exhaled in relief. "Oh, she's back again. Where did you go, Wheezy? Aunt Harriet was here." Realizing that we were staring at the exact same spot, he whispered, "You see her too, don't you?" For some reason, I suddenly felt annoyed. "Of course I do. Stop asking me stupid questions." I wasn't scared. I mean, it was just my little sister. At least it looked like her for the most part, only there was a light around her, bluish and straining like the flames of a fire. I had never seen anything like it, and yet at the same time it was only Wheezy. I needed to think. Unfortunately, William still had questions. "Why isn't she in heaven? You said she was going to heaven." "Don't blame me, William Coppin," I snapped. "That's not my fault." William bowed his head and mumbled, "Are you not happy that she's back?" All the while, Wheezy never said a word. She just smiled at us as if she was glad to be home again. Goodness knows how long we stood there before we were surprised by Laura, who had been sent to fetch us. "Come on, you pair. You're keeping everyone waiting." She grabbed us by the hands and Wheezy disappeared just like that. In the dining room, Mamma asked what had kept us. She was seated in her usual place, with Aunt Harriet to her left and Grandfather at the head of the table. They were not alone. Before I could stop him, William blurted out, "How did you get here so fast?" Aunt Harriet laughed. "Because I came down ahead of you, remember?" Peering at his forehead, Mamma asked, "Is your poor head all right, dear?" "No," said William, not hearing her. "I wasn't talking to you, Aunt Harriet." He stopped short, and everyone stared at him. Mamma shrugged and said, "Ah, you were talking to me then, were you? Well, I was already down here waiting for you and Anne." William looked at me as she shook his head. I became the centre of attention as each adult, including Laura, who still held her hands, waited for me to explain my brother's strange behaviour. It was Wheezy who let me feel that it would be all right to tell. So I just said it straight out, as I did not know how else to. Wheezy is here.